All right, what's up, guys? We've got another episode of the Growth by Shawn podcast. So I've got Dan Kenary on today. Dan, what's up, my brother?
Nothing, man. Super fired up to be on. It's been a minute, man, since
Yeah, we've
college, dude.
me and Dan, we met each other back in Bridgewater. I'm not 100% sure how we connected, probably through like AJ, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
or we might have been in similar classes or just like through the gym, things like that. You just kind of like start to like know like everyone in like different cliques and things like that,
that's how college
you know?
works,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, especially with the gym.
Yeah,
Like,
especially with the gym. That's its own cult in itself, but
yeah,
we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, we were chatting a little bit before this, but I mean, I don't even know how to introduce you. You can just like lay out like everything you've been up to because I mean, I know it's a bunch of shit. I mean, you've went from bodybuilding to track star to I mean, your own brands, like lay it all on me.
yeah, dude.
Whichever direction you want to go, I'm game.
So I'll start in the beginning. I'll start with, you know, born when I was born all the way to this moment in time right now. So,
Hmm.
Dan Kenary, I am a brother. I'm a son. I'm someone who loves to work out and train. It's not my life, but that's just something I love to do. I love to cook, someone who loves to cook. And most importantly, I'm someone who loves to entertain. I love bringing
Mm.
people together. And I'll kind of touch upon that throughout this, but I grew up in Holden, Mass. Went to Wachusett High School. Went to Bridgewater. But the funny thing is, going to Bridgewater State University is I was to take a step back. I was in high school and I was playing on the second line JV lacrosse team. Like literally the worst that you could be
Hmm.
on a lacrosse team. So the reason for that though, as a baseball kid, all my friends started playing lacrosse. So I was like, you know what, let's try this thing out. Second line JV. And I took one off season. And in that off season, lost like 20 pounds, got my nutrition right. Because as I was growing up, parents were super busy. So they would just either throw in like a warm pizza in the oven, you take it out
Hmm.
and the kids eat, or we would just have pasta every night. So
Hmm.
just carb heavy family. And anyways, so I took an off season, lost 20 pounds, got nutrition right. And throughout that process, I met this guy named Dave. Dave is like my mentor. We would talk after the gym about nutrition. I'd always have like a new question for him. I think when I first met him, I was like, Dave, can I get like a six pack by summer? Like, is this possible? You know, just stuff like
Yeah.
that. And he loved the curiosity, which was really cool. So he was like, Dan, like, you know, you've lost a lot of weight. You've been killing it in the off season. Like, you should study this because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I looked up, I told Dave, I was like, Dave, what do you mean I can study exercise? Like, what? Like, is that
Hmm.
even a thing? And he's like, yeah, like they have PhDs in this field. So I looked it up. Bridgewater State came up, and I was like, great, let's do it. But before going to Bridgewater, I went from second line JV off-season training, and then the following year I started on varsity, passing
Oh
all my
wow.
friends who played. So it was really cool to just see that work ethic, and I knew I had something and a passion for knowledge for health and wellness that I needed to study it, especially with just seeing the improvements in myself. So went to Bridgewater, met up with AJ, who's a friend of ours,
Hmm.
and you know, through going to the gym and all that stuff. My sophomore year, I did my first bodybuilding show. I got my inspiration from AJ because the year previous he did it himself. So I was like, I got to do this. I got to step it up because of, you know, we had worked out a lot, but it's, you want to kind of take it to the next level and always be evolving.
Hmm.
That's something I always found throughout the training process is you need to continually evolve, right? Never stop. And so I'll get into that later too. So anyways, we did the bodybuilding show. That was probably the hardest thing I've done in my life to this date, to be honest with you. You find out a lot about yourself. You find out how bad you want something, especially knowing you're going to be on stage and you don't want to be embarrassed, right? So you just go hard. Just for the folks listening to what that entails is, you know, I was training for 2 hours a day. probably max 1,500 calories a day. You're only eating protein powder, oatmeal, chicken, broccoli, rice, water. That's it.
Mhm.
It got a little severe towards the end of it because I was so obsessed, not with like a body image issue, but more of just I want to be prepped and good to go. My testosterone dropped so much at the time I had a girlfriend, and I couldn't even get it up.
Mhm.
No sex for 3 months. That was
Mhm.
hard for me, let alone her. So again, the craziest part about this whole journey, at least from the bodybuilding perspective, was I didn't even place.
Mm.
And I had put so much effort in, lost so many different social aspects of my life, let alone, the girlfriend, and my family was it affected my family too a lot, to be honest. I was always in a bad mood and all that stuff. So didn't even place. I remember seeing AJ after he had a medal or two. He did well, and I started to break down and cry because of just how much effort I put into it and still didn't place. Um, so anyways, that moment in my life was game changing because I could identify like the body is so amazing, and it can, and let alone just your mind, how powerful your mind can really be if you really want something. So I took that work ethic and that idea and that perspective, and I've used that ever since, going into a ton of different avenues of my life. So bodybuilding, wanted to take another level up, did that, graduated with my bachelor's in exercise science. In the meantime, I was doing a ton of internships. From there, I got into the master's program for strength and conditioning. So met a lot of really cool folks there. If anyone's going into their master's for anything, it's cool because, everyone's done the easy step of the bachelor's. Everyone who's in their master's wants to be there, right? It's a choice.
Mhm.
Not that college isn't, but that's kind of how I took a look at it.
They're different levels.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's pretty easy depending on where you go to get by. And then
Mhm.
masters is like, all right, these folks actually want to be here. So did well there. When I was there though, it was a really cool experience. I was working at Boston College, leading a lot of their varsity teams. They gave me like a handful of teams to program for and work with. And so having that responsibility was really cool. But I remember it was I was doing a run on Beacon Street in Boston. It was about 4:30 p.m. This is when all the colleges were closing in Boston due to the pandemic. BC
Mm.
was one of the last ones.
Mhm.
And running on Beacon, I get a call from Russ DeRosa, the head strength coach. And for anyone who doesn't know Russ, he's probably my second mentor, taught me everything, 4 national titles with Boston College hockey, and working with Jerry York, the Hall of Fame hockey coach. And he calls me and he's like, Dan, we got to close down the building, pandemic. We have no idea what's happening, but you got to go. Long story short, finished up my master's online, but I only had like a month left, which was like amazing. But it kind of stunk to where I couldn't say a formal goodbye to all the athletes I worked with. But again, being at Boston College, to take a step back, when I was working there, I would wake up at 4, get my stuff ready, be there for 5. You had to do this thing where we call it the fuel station, where you kind of set up all the food for the athletes um, before the lift. So we would set up the fuel station and then prep for the first lift at 6 a.m. And then you're on the floor for 10 hours, barely being able to eat, just because it's team after team. We had,
Mhm.
I think out of the whole ACC, we had the highest amount of teams. So I think it was like 23 teams.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you're just constantly there, running the floor, and then from there, you would drive an hour to Merrimack College for your night classes, get home by like 10 o'clock, and then you're back up at 4 a.m. again. So again, right? So
Yeah,
this
that's a
bodybuilding
grind.
summer work ethic transfers
Mhm.
over to that.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And then from BC, pandemic happened, graduated, and I had this moment of reflection, being like, what do I want to do in life? I don't know if, strength conditioning is for me necessarily from a full-time perspective, just because, as funny as it sounds, I like the fancy things. I like some of the flashy shit, whatever. So I knew working 16 hours at a very low wage job was maybe not the best avenue to go through, but again, learned so much stuff
Mm-hmm.
in that experience. So what I did was I was like, well, I want to, create my own business. So that's where I created DKP, Kenary Performance Online Strength and Conditioning, custom nutrition and training and all that stuff. So created my own website on Wix, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is during the pandemic, early stages. So you had a lot of time, taught myself that. And, just kept marketing it. It was funny how everyone was starting to do online home stuff. And that's exactly when I started,
Mm-hmm.
with no intent there. But, just start reaching out to folks, actually started programming for free because I just needed the referrals and, the ability to post the success stories. Once I
Mm-hmm.
gained some successful clients and all that stuff, started charging folks, and it's evolved ever since. So it's been 3-4 years of that stuff. My favorite piece of it is obviously, you're changing lives and helping folks, but it's really just seeing the evolution of it all. And I'm primarily referral based, which is kind of cool, knowing that you're providing enough value to people are still referring to you after 4 years, which is great. So from there, I can talk about the business later, but
Mm-hmm.
for time wise, and then DKP. Oh, so then I was sitting there wondering what the hell I want to do, created the website, created the business, but I was like, I need a full-time position somewhere. So what I did was my roommate Colin was in software sales
Mm-hmm.
at a Boston company. He said, Dan, try it out. You'd be great in sales. Doesn't matter what you went to college for. Like, it's just sales. Like, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So after, I think it was like 167 applications that summer, I finally got locked into one. At an engineering company. So again, bodybuilding mindset to BC, now to just apply, be obsessed. Got a job finally, million interviews. Because again, what's an exercise science kid know about sales? There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of transferable skills, but regardless, that happened. So started out, you're ripping 75 calls a day, you're sending thousands of emails, it's sales, it's what you would think it would be.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I got promoted there. I was the fastest like promotion of someone new. I think it was 9 months. Finally got a legit sales position, and there's no no call metrics, no emails. Again, they just care about, did you bring in the revenue? We don't care about calls.
Mm-hmm.
So did that. They were building a brand new office in Phoenix at the time, a couple of years ago. So I said, hey, I would love to get out of the hometown because I was living in Boston for about 2 years at that point. I want to shoot out to Phoenix. So I was like, they're like, yeah, we'll pay for it. They helped me move out there, moved into a beautiful spot out there, and it's hot, but it's great.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just kind of find Dan a little bit. I had so many great friends out here, so many family members, but I think there's a piece of us that needs to kind of go out on our own. And I'm someone who believes in people, and when people's backs against the walls, they tend to turn out okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have no resources around you immediately, you have to go out to those bars, you have to go out to those social scenes, you have to walk up to random people, introduce yourself, even if it's at the apartment complex. And so you're meeting people by the pool, and just put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I feel like I'm a lot this isn't the right word, but like harder, like I have a harder mindset in terms of I'm not scared to be embarrassed or fail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what brought that out of me. In Phoenix, met some great people, still got networking out there. But that's where I got into the trail running stuff. So I was into running back during the pandemic because stuff was closed down. But one day I woke up. It was a Friday before work. I was in software sales. I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I said, I'm just going to run a marathon. I was like, let me just see if I can do it. Like, if I fail, like, whatever, I can call an Uber, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
to pick me up, whatever. So I ran my first marathon, like, before work one day on a Friday. And I was like, all right, cool. Did it, done. What's next? And so from there, that just got me in love with running. I think it was more from like a mental piece though.
Hmm.
Shawn. It wasn't really about anything else. It was just meditative. And so yeah, did that. And then I knew I loved running, so that's where I got into trail running. So met a running group out in Phoenix every Monday night at 6:30. Shout out to them. And from there I met a couple guys, their dads or whatever, and they're like, Dan, love running with you. Would you want to run the Grand Canyon with us? So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So we got an Airbnb, spent a
Hmm.
night up there, woke up at 3 a.m. and they call it the rim to rim run. So you run from the
Hmm.
north rim to the south rim, 24 miles. I think the highest it got out there was about 103 degrees. And so you start at like an elevation of like 9,000, you go down to 1,000 feet and then back up 10.
Mm.
So as I was going up, I actually got like a headache just due to the lack of oxygen, which was
Yeah.
crazy. So it's funny because everyone goes to Grand Canyon and like looks over, but we ran through it,
Yeah.
which was cool. So that was Phoenix. And then yeah, I just didn't meet as many people or close-knit friends as I wanted to. Had a lot of fun out there. It's a party every night, but gets a little bit lonely. And so shot back out here and ran my first ultra marathon in October. So a 31-mile race, did a little YouTube documentary, 20-minute video on that. And
Hmm.
then in 10 days, I'm running my first snowshoe marathon. So
Okay.
26.2 in snowshoes, Pittsfield,
Hmm.
Vermont, which would be
Interesting.
great. And then in last August, I did my first half Ironman in Ireland with
Hmm.
some
Oh,
cool
wow.
people.
All
So
right.
endurance is like the thing now. So from
Yeah.
bodybuilding to endurance training. So that's like a little bit about me.
Yeah. So, before you did the first marathon, how far had you uh ran?
Beginning of the pandemic, 3 miles was a long
Hmm.
run.
Yep.
Months go over and over. Three turns into five, five turns into a half marathon. And
Okay.
then, getting into Goggins and, fucking
Yeah.
these guys who are talking about it's all in your head. I was like, you know what? Let's see what I can do. So I just woke up one day and said, let's run a marathon.
Shit. So what was going through your head the whole marathon? Or was it just more like you were saying, just meditative, you can kind of just zone out during it?
Um, I think what was going through my head was number one, when I started, I still remember it. I hit start on my Garmin. I'm like, Jesus Christ, here we go. Start slow, run slow, take your time. I actually threw on a Joe Rogan podcast because they're like
Okay.
10 hours long.
Yeah.
So threw that on. It was a Chris Stapleton feature actually. But no, I just kept running and running. And it's actually funny, Shawn, when you do run that long, you're actually forgetting that you're running
Hmm.
because you're just like, I've been doing this for the past 3 hours and I forget. I looked down at my watch and I'm like, well, shit, we're 21 miles in, like another five, let's go. I feel good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now you were doing something with you were on like the RV and you were
Oh shit.
planning for like the rollerblading guy. What was that all about?
Yeah, it's crazy how I forgot that. It was just like a flash. So yeah, quick backstory. So as I was interning for my master's, it
Hmm.
was winter break, and uh this one of the teachers at a college my mom's a dean at that
Hmm.
I teach at part-time now. In the mornings, the teacher who we know reached out to me, said, Dan, I got an exercise science kid from France. He'd love to
Hmm.
talk to you. I said, yeah, sure, bring him in. So met Louis, understood what he wanted to do. Long story short, Louis went from France to Canada, went to Canada when he was 12 just to play hockey,
Hmm.
and then moved from Canada and got, a position at this Division 3 school that my mom's a part of and got
Hmm.
referred to me for. So I was like, yeah, Louis, great to meet you, man. How are you? So I was like, I would love to have you intern under me. Again, I'm only like 24. I got an
Hmm.
intern who's 22 or whatever. So it's kind of
Hmm.
funny. But long story short, we turned into really good friends. Like we would go out together. But it was cool because, I'd educate him. He's from France. He doesn't know as much about exercise science.
Hmm.
English is good. And yeah, developed a good relationship. I ended up training him for his hockey seasons and super funny, man. About after a year doing that, I had him on the podcast,
Okay.
my podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
he was like, yeah, I'm doing something kind of crazy. I got to talk to you offline about it. I was like, all right, cool. So we talked offline after the podcast, and then like 2 months later had him on. In the meantime, though, he told me, he's like, Dan, when I was 6, and I never knew this about Louis, when I was
Mm-hmm.
6 or however young, I almost died because I had taken this pill that was supposed to help me with something, and then it activated some genes in his body. And long story short, his body was burning from the inside out, and it
Wow.
was burning so bad he got like 3rd-degree burns.
Wow.
Yeah, the bone. And so like, holy shit, I never knew that about you. So he's like, what I want to do is I want to raise money for this because it's always been a thought in my head. I feel
Mm-hmm.
guilty that I survived and some folks didn't. So
Mm.
like, yeah, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to rollerblade across the United States from LA to New York City. I was like, all right, let's do it. Like,
Wow.
like I'm someone who's never gonna say something's impossible until
Mm-hmm.
you try it and you fail, right? So I was like, all right, let's try it out, dude. So we trained for the past year for it, a lot of endurance training. And the thing with that too is you never know what to expect. So you just make sure he's fit and healthy, ready to go on game day, and then keep him healthy throughout that time. So in the meantime, over the course of the year, he reached out to someone who he was going to college with. Her cousin was like a director and filmmaker in Hollywood. She
Mm-hmm.
got them connected, and Louis told his story. Director loved it. They collabed. They're like, yes, we want to do a documentary on this. So I was like,
Wow.
cool. So long story short, we get to Venice Beach was the start. They flew me out. I arrive in Beverly Hills, and 10 hours later, we're starting the race. Not really a race, but you get
Yeah,
it.
I
And
understand.
so we start in Venice. Louis begins. I'm driving the van through LA because we're tracking him throughout this process. And we're
Yep.
like, all right, we'll meet you here. Good. We have a water break or whatever. I'm ahead of keeping him healthy, nutrition, stretching, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the trainer. So it's me, the videographer, Louis racing, Ryan, who's the director, and then his like partner in crime. Forgot her name. Shit. Jen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Jen, Ryan, me, Louis, videographer. So I'm driving the van. Now the funny part is we didn't have a travel RV
Mm-hmm.
on the day we started the race,
Okay.
which we knew was a massive problem, but
Yeah.
because of budgets and timing, we're like, we got to start. So that happens, and again, we get the RV. Ryan and Jen figure it out, and so we end our first night, goes well, and the way that we would track Louis is like we go over a map every night, say, Louis, this is where we're starting. We need to get here by the end of the day. Where are we going to meet for checkpoints?
Yeah.
So we would do checkpoints every like 20 miles, which would take him about like 2 hours, but it depends on like, is the 20 miles a straight hill? If so, it's going to be every
Mm-hmm.
5 miles. You just never know. But the reason why we had certain miles laid out for each day is because he wanted to do this in a world record.
Oh,
So
okay.
we had to figure out how many days, how many miles, do the math. But it was tough because like we trained him as best we could
Mm-hmm.
for this, but like you don't know what you don't know. So it's kind of funny too from a training perspective. I had to understand every day is a training day for him if you think about it. So he would
Mm-hmm.
just get more efficient over time. The other piece too is we're in an RV. Electricity and water run out as you
Mm-hmm.
move along. So we would finish like 2 days on the road without being able to stop the RV in like an RV park to revamp the engine and the electricity and the refill the water.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't realize we'd be moving forward and we wouldn't have like an RV station for 2 or 3 days, which means no running water or electricity.
Yeah.
And we're trying to help this kid wash his clothes because he's going to get some type of infection if he keeps using it without washing it. So
Yep.
that was another piece. And then I can give you a quick funny story about it
Yeah.
real quick, and I can wrap it up. We were in Arizona. It was in like the Navajo Nation area. We're about like 2 weeks in, middle of nowhere, straight out of a movie, one road, nothing, and just like little Navajo houses here and there. So we're on their territory. So I'm driving. I got Louis in the back, got everyone in the back, dropped him off. Ryan and Jen had left to meet us at the checkpoint 20 miles down. So I'm ahead of driving everyone because I'm the oldest who can
Mm-hmm.
technically drive it legally. And so drop him off. My buddy Pat Moran, who I was just with, was living in Park City, Utah. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
Dan, love your story. Want to meet you in Flagstaff. So I was like, sure. So he drove 8 hours from Utah,
Mm-hmm.
meets us in Flagstaff, and he's following me. We're driving. And because what happened was we missed a point to drop Louis off.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to like turn around. So as we're driving, it's me in the front, Pat in the back. I turn around the middle of the road because there's no cars, but Pat had a car behind him. So he kept going forward to go to a gas station to turn around.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know where Pat went. So now I drop Louis off. Louis is off now. He's good to go. I'm like, Pat, where are you, dude? You were just behind us. He's like, no answer for like an hour. I'm like getting sketched out because this kid drove 8 hours to see us, blah, blah, blah. He's been with us for 2 or 3 days already.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls me and he's like, dude, I just got axed.
Okay.
And I'm like,
What? Yeah.
is
What
your
does that
arm
mean?
cut off?
Yeah.
Like leg cut off? He's like, dude, I'll just explain it when I see you. Just send me your location. I was like, holy shit. This kid sounded like shaken up.
Yeah.
So he tells us his story, and this is all on the video. Like, so this will be in this
Mm-hmm.
documentary.
Mm-hmm.
He like shows up, tells me and Louis and the team, like, he turned around, but something happened there to where like he turned around and maybe he was rude about it. And there
Mm-hmm.
was like a Navajo native guy behind him. Something happened. Navajo guy didn't like it. So Pat turned around driving. The Navajo guy does a U-turn and pulls up next to Pat, and they're driving like 80 miles an hour because this guy's like has an
Mm-hmm.
axe, yelling at Pat across the the road, and Pat's like freaking out. I was like, what the hell? So he's like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna pull over because I don't know what's gonna happen if like go too fast. So he
Yeah.
pulls over. The guy walks out of his car holding an axe. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? What the hell was that? Blah, 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 blah. And smashes his front windshield, which is gone. And
Yeah.
then Pat's in the driver's seat at this moment, smashes his driver door window and like another window. So and the guy's like, you're dealing with an uncivilized person and freaking out. So I don't know if it was like a white people thing where we're traveling through their land and maybe
Yeah.
Pat said something and disrespected, whatever. So Pat pulls up, blood is covered, face is covered in blood, glass shattered everywhere. And we're like, holy shit. But it was super sobering for us because we would
Yeah.
be on the highway with Louis. Dude, we got like 18 wheelers, 5 lane highways, and it's just me on a dumb little bike if I
Yep.
was biking in front of him and him just rollerblading. Like picture going on the Mass
Oh my
Pike and
God.
seeing that. That
That
was
would be
us
wild. Oh my God.
across the whole United States, Route
Yeah.
66. So, it was just crazy, but that was like a sobering thing because we were like, we could like die out here.
Yeah.
Like, and we're here to support Louis in this message, but like, it gives you a second thought of like, what are we doing? But, long story short, I did my job, got him across injury free,
Mm-hmm.
which was like really cool. And so now what they're doing is they're making edits. We finished it this past August of 2022, and
Yeah.
they're gonna, from what I hear, they're gonna try and attempt to pitch it to Netflix, pitch it to
Mm-hmm.
Hulu, and so
Mm-hmm.
that would be cool. But I'm just glad Louis did his thing and we got him
Yeah.
across safely, dude. But yeah, that was we got across world record, 45
Okay.
days.
All right. I was gonna ask. So what was like his from like your point of view, his stress management? How did you uh like oversee that? Because I mean, training basically every day a training day. That's got to take a toll on him.
Yeah, yeah. So I think again, it goes back to the mind. He's got
Mm-hmm.
one of the most powerful minds, which is like super helpful as a trainer. But what we do is, wake up. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. I would
Mm-hmm.
cook for everyone. Now you got to
Mm-hmm.
remember, it's 5 people in this RV. It's super small. So you hear eggs getting made. Jen's half asleep on the couch. Everyone's hot. It's sweaty.
Yep.
But I got to cook for the kid. So he did a fantastic job gaining a relationship with First Form. First Form sponsored
Oh,
him, and
okay.
now he's a sponsored athlete. He's got his own locker in their headquarters,
Okay.
which is sick. But yeah, we'd wake up. I'd cook for the whole team. I would make sure Louis had all of his hydration in the Camelback, everything prepped. I'd prep the van with all his stuff. So then he would begin 20 miles down the road. I'd be sitting there for 2 hours, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, meantime, I'm working full time as a software guy. So I'm
Oh.
taking client calls in this car on the highway as people are flying by me, and I got Louis waiting for me, tracking him.
Oh,
Like,
that's crazy.
crazy, dude. But like
Oh
that's
my
what
God.
makes it, man. And you know, so he would arrive, I'd open up the back, lay down the chair, hold up his feet. I would take off his skates for him, his
Yep.
rollerblades for him,
Yep.
and he would lay in the car for like an hour, depending on how hot it was. And
Yeah.
I'd blast the AC for him. And after about like an hour or two, we regain strength. He feels good, hydrated, and then we
Mm-hmm.
would go again. Same process, and we would go till like 10 o'clock at night some nights. So from like
Okay.
5 or 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night, and then do it all over. He did a great job. Also gaining relationships with like some of these. What are the things that you put on your feet or your legs?
Like
The
the
air. They fill with air, and they
I don't
like
know what you're talking about.
it's for the athletes after like they're done playing a game.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about. That like the compression, but it's
Yeah,
like filled with air. It's almost like a self-massager type thing. I
I'm
don't
the
know.
trainer and I should like know
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
but
whatever.
so yeah, he got sponsored by them, so he got free
Okay.
stuff there. He got sponsored by like Hypervolt, I think, so I was able
Oh
to
wow, okay.
Hypervolt him.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you
and
guys were reaching out to everyone beforehand.
he did that all
Okay.
himself, dude. He got the documentary team, he got his
Wow.
sponsors. I was just there being like, I have like my athlete is sponsored by First Form, and I get to use
Yeah.
all of their supplements and make his stuff for
Yeah.
it. It was crazy, big money saver too.
Yeah. Because you guys stopping and like getting food every other day or things like that? Like,
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, first night we fell asleep in a Walmart parking lot.
oof.
So funny. And actually, I was doing East Coast hours for my software sales job at the time, but we're
Yeah.
on the West Coast, so I'd
Yeah.
be up for a 9 a.m. meeting at 6 a.m. But then
Yeah.
before that, I had to cook for the team,
Uh,
which was, dude, it was just like a crazy like time. Now that I like think about it, like you're making me resonate on this.
yeah.
Like, holy shit. Um, did I answer your question? I totally forgot what it was.
Were you guys stopping for food?
Yeah, so we
How
would
often?
stop
Yeah.
for food. We would if we went to a spot that had like a Walmart or grocery store, we would like load up for a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're on the road and maybe at the end of the day, sometimes we would just stop at a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Louis, you don't have a diet right now. Just get in as many calories as you can. Like it doesn't
Okay.
have to be healthy
Mm-hmm.
because he burns so much a day,
Yeah.
you know?
Was he getting bloated from anything?
No,
Or was
he
he
was all right. He was good.
okay? Because what was the goal? Just to get as many calories as he could?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So I was like, do your French fries, do your ice cream. And
Mm-hmm.
again, like in the morning, right? He's having bacon, eggs. I'm filling his supplements with the right electrolytes, ratios,
Mm-hmm.
and his protein powder. So it was healthy all day. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, at night, do you?
Because I mean, that's basically just fueling him for the next day.
Right, man. And it was actually kind of crazy. This speaks to Louis and his mindset, which you should have him on. And I
Mm-hmm.
can give you his info.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I told him one day, I think we were like 12 days in, and I was like, dude, like, do you want to just like, do you need a break? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just thinking from a health perspective. And he was like, yeah, no, I understand, and like kind of played it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then that day, he put in 70 miles. Our average miles a day was like 45.
Wow.
It's like, Louis, what happened? He's like, dude, honestly, Dan, he's like, I really look up to you. Like, you actually inspire me. But when you said to take a day off, like, that really fucking pissed me off. And that's why he got the 70 miles in. And I
Oh
was like,
man.
I fucking love that.
Oh man.
It was
That's
crazy, man. Yeah.
that is crazy. Um, but what is he doing now?
Good question. So I think he graduated school, but he's over in Europe right now. He's
Okay.
playing pro pro hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I just saw on Instagram he's back in the United States for first form. They
Okay.
wined and dined him, and he's
Yeah.
so yeah, he's either in
Oh,
playing hockey professionally or doing
okay.
this, or helping market the research for his disease that he marketed for
Okay. Shit.
yeah.
But overall, I think that's a good place to kind of like stop, and that leaves us at a good like break point for a
Sure.
part two, more for like business wise for next time.
I'm
I think
down,
that would
man.
be like the most like the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, no, this was it's so funny, Sean. Like I've never really like took the time to like reflect
Hmm.
and like tell my story, and
Hmm.
I'm like, wow, oh shit.
I've done a
But
lot of shit.
yeah, but
Yeah.
no, it's refreshing. I think it gives us some gratitude. I think some people need to
Mm-hmm.
do that and realize how far they've come or where they want to go. And
Mm-hmm.
um it's good. And I would love to be on again and talk from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff I've learned in software sales that applied to my business and been able to get sponsors and how to go
Mm-hmm.
about that process. So if anyone's listening who does want to do that or currently does it, like I think it'd be
Mm-hmm.
beneficial for everyone. So
Yeah. Why don't you just lay out where we can find you for now, and then we'll look forward to a part two for the next business one.
sure, yeah. So website dancanaryperformance.com. I got free articles up there that you can read, testimonials. I love to give people free information. So I have like a resources page. And then I got the Instagram D dot underscore J dot underscore K, which is super annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, Dan Kenary. I have a YouTube, Dan Kenary Performance. That's my 31-mile ultra marathon. And then I'm doing another documentary for this upcoming snowshoe marathon.
I'm gonna have to go look at that.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the
20
only one I
minutes.
didn't get to look at was the
Yeah, no
YouTube. I didn't know
worries.
you had the YouTube for some reason. I looked at the
Yeah,
website. I've been in and out of the website, and I've been in and out of Instagram, things like that. But and then I followed the journey on Facebook. So,
appreciate you. And shout out to any of your listeners if they want to get connected with me.
hmm
Feel free to just ask Shawn for my personal cell. I love connecting with other folks. So
yeah,
Shawn, this was really cool, man. I was like, just in general, great to catch up with you. We got
yeah,
to
no,
catch
for
up and
sure.
grab a
I didn't even have
beer.
to say anything.
Yeah, I
You
know,
know,
right? What the
you
hell?
know. Sometimes it just works like that. So, all right, guys.
Cool,
Thank
man.
you. See you next time.